Hi, my name is Neecha. I'm from the Ojibway Nation of Saugeen, which is located north of Savannah Lake. But I live here in Ottawa. I live here in Centertown, and I've been, um, I've been watching and observing everything since day one.
And my name is Audrey Redman, and I'm Dakota-Cree from Saskatchewan, and I'm in Ottawa right now as well. But I'm a survivor of the Indian residential schools and the 60 Scoop, and I've been out of the city, out of Ottawa for the last 9 months, and just came in just over a week ago into the thick of it. And I'm glad I came because it's obviously an event that's worldwide now. But I think that we had we had a part to play in that, in bringing some of the good things out that because of all the negative media coverage that was going on, and I think we were like anybody I think who was here was could say that it was an event that I was really not just happy to be part of, but really because it was such an event of unity that brought everyone together that you could not feel anywhere. I've never been anywhere where, never been to a festival, other than a powwow where people were so united and happy to be together.
Well, I think at first I believed the media, like when they were talking about the truckers coming to Ottawa. I remember when they were leaving British Columbia, and I remember like feeling like a little anxious because of the history that, the history of Indigenous people and truckers. And so, but aside from listening to the media, when they actually got here, they all came flooding down Kent Street and all these different streets into Ottawa. And I had to go see for myself, what was happening. And I wanted to ask questions as to where they came from and why they were here. And so I began doing that, and then it became very easy for me to go out there and to actually go meet them because they were very friendly. I didn't see like the swastikas and the flags and all that. I haven't seen them at all. I've been there almost every single day, almost, and the only flags I seen were mainly Quebec flags, Canadian flags, um, the F Trudeau flags. I seen a lot of that, but I seen a lot of happy people. Like there's a bunch of different nationalities. They were mainly, yes, Canadians, but I never felt threatened. Me personally, I wasn't harassed. I wasn't, nobody heckled me or anything, but I made friends with a lot of them, but I found out, like why they were here and, the meetings. And then, but it was also an interesting opportunity for myself because in my territory, we're dealing with nuclear waste. And one of the ways is that they're trying to transport nuclear waste into our territory, and they're trying to use transport like truckers. So I took this opportunity to go talk to them and find out more about the transportation of nuclear waste. So that's what I was there for, but I was also there to observe and to see if the policing was going to treat the Canadians as they would, us when we stand up to defend the lands.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when I came in, I didn't see any signs of any what they're accusing them of racism, because there were people from all walks of life. There were children, there were families, there were students, there were workers. It just felt like a big celebration. So the night I got there, too, they were feeding people out there in the tents, people were volunteering. It was, to me, a big celebration. And where they got that from, I'm not following a lot of what's going on over the internet, but what I heard from other Native people about what had happened here on the hill as well, because apparently there was a fire that was put on the hill and it was put out. There was real criticism by the Algonquins, by maybe not all of them, but that's what came out. And they were criticized for the orange shirts, bringing them there. And to me, it's not a time to be criticizing, because to me, as First Nations people, we should already know that it's been done here already to us. The whole divide and conquer method of taking over the land, and that was for what they were doing at the time, and I'm a survivor of the schools. So, all this about the money too is very similar to what happened to us. I grew up on my reserve where my uncle was a fisherman, and he couldn't sell the fish to outside the reserve. And that's a fact, that's how they prevented us from gaining any economical self-sufficiency in our lands. They prevented that. And they also prevented in that $2.5 billion settlement that came with agreements. And I didn't take it. I didn't take that little $31,000 compensation that was for 7 years in there. Not just 7 years, but losing everything. Family, community, culture, language, everything. $31,000. And to take it, I had to sign off on all the survivors who died before 2005. That's a big one, because I had a sister who was murdered in Vancouver and who left 5 children. And how many of our missing and murdered women and men and women left children behind who got nothing? And where did that $2.5 billion settlement go? And the Canadians never asked. Now, if you can cover up graves the way they have for this long, didn't even mention it. They knew about it, didn't even mention it. And if you could cover up hiding children for over 100 years on this land from Canadians who didn't even know. So when you look at that picture and you look at the government that's in power now, and you take a look back, you take a look what happened in the United States of America, and how many, and here too, the Beothuk slaughtered right out to have the land. And right now, that's exactly what they're doing. They're planning already their meetings for the mines in Northern Ontario to go up there. They got meetings planned already in Toronto, for Vancouver. They're all meeting to go and mine the lands of First Nations people. And if they can do this here, they'll do this anywhere, especially when you're in isolated territories. So we got here a big, big problem that stretches way back to now. Well, I didn't get the vaccine, and that mainly because when I first heard about it, I was listening because they were reporting about these viruses being carried on airplanes, and there was a plane that had been, they'd stopped it because it was a passenger plane. They had put this on the news, so I was catching little pieces here and there. And when it came to, it just rolled into one into the other very, very quickly, where the mandates, the masks, the lockdowns, when that came about, and I mean, I don't trust anyway, because what I've been through. We've already been made experiments. I was in experimental school where they tested on us. So I think for those people, and there's not just me, but there's probably so many people that have been institutionalized and know what that's about, because there's within that realm, there is no choice, there's no freedom, there is only compliance. There's either compliance or punishment. And that's what I went through with the Indian residential school settlement, because I went through from the time that they started to put that out in 1998 with Chrétien. I started to question it, and I sent letters to them. Well, over these since to this one, to Justin Trudeau, every time I would do something, I would be punished for it. My income, because I was living on such a meager income, I was going through the Indian residential school, I was going through the trauma, I was living on $600 a month, and even with that little bit, they would pull it. So I'd have no money for rent. So I was homeless twice, I don't know how I lived through those years until I reached my pension years, because now I'm 70. And so all those 20 odd years, I struggled and I had to do what I could to make my way financially. But this is what they do. And I already know that. So with all that in mind, when it came right down to it, I'm not going to take something that you're telling me to take. And then on top of it, all the people who have been suffering without food, without water, without decent housing, who've been calling for this for years and years and years, contaminated land, from uranium, from the mining, from the oil wells, all of this calling for what they need and not being heard. And then all of a sudden, you're taking all these vaccines up into northern communities and telling them that they have to take that this is going to be good for them. And you didn't care whether they lived in a house that could catch fire. So there's no, when you take a look at the picture, now even you're not thinking about what's going on or what happened, either you got disconnected from the past or you're eating up all that they're telling you, which has been what's happened. The media has been nothing but COVID. And no one has asked what kind of money went in there. Who's getting the money? Nobody's even covering that. Where are the accountants here? That's what I'd like to ask. Where are the lawyers who check into these things? Where are you? They got Champ here down in Ottawa, putting a lawsuit against the truckers, for disturbing the poor little Ottawanians, with their boring city. What are they protecting? This is a capital city of Canada. Anybody can come here. They don't own the city. This is Canada's city. And I think Canadians better start thinking about that.
I've seen some, not many, they weren't flooding in, but I did see people from the Métis Nation. I seen people who are Inuit, and I seen people like myself, Indigenous or Anishinaabe. We did connect, we did meet, and because we were really happy to see each other, and we'd be like, hey, what's up, brother, sister, auntie, uncle, whatever. And we it was nice, you know what I mean? And we always, we kind of made this little connection where we became a little interconnected family. So we kind of talk and text and chat and yeah, we're still connected.
And Gladys, tell about Gladys.
We had a grandmother, Gladys, and her grandson. What's her grandson?
Yeah, Darius.
Darius. They stayed with us. So we took them in and they stayed with us for about 4 or 5 days?
Yeah.
And they were from Calgary. They were from Calgary. So they stayed with us. And
Tell
then
her how you met. She came here just not even knowing where she was going to stay. And she's 68.
Yeah. She traveled here from Calgary. Her and her grandson just jumped on a bus. They didn't know how they were going to get here, but they just, just just jumped on a bus and came here, and they were staying in a hotel and everything, and they were taken care of. But I guess in like the last couple of days, they weren't sure what was going to happen, because I guess they were supposed to go back to Calgary, but they wanted to stay here longer because the protest was lasting longer. So I guess we were kind of talking over Facebook, and I had met her on Parliament, because remember when the drummers came to Parliament? I mean, you had the Yabba Dabba Doo, drummers and stuff, but then we had, like our drummers, up, later on. So those are the ones that I was, listening to, and I went up to, and I had met them, and I invited them to like, meet up, because I thought it was really important that maybe we weren't a lot of like, Indigenous people, but there was enough for us to like, communicate and to like, create that unity amongst ourselves. So we opened our houses to other people that were coming through Ottawa to host them and give them a place to stay, so they're able to go down to the convoy and see for themselves, like what's happening, and not to trust what media is saying and what they're pushing out there. Because I think it's really important that everybody comes, like maybe you're not able to come down yourself, but there's a lot of stuff that's being said out there, and it's not factual, it's not true. Like I said, like I was down there almost every day. I have a lot of video footage on my phones, but they're too big to upload. So I'd like to, come out to see you guys and then put it all together and, make it really nice. But I have video footage since day one. I have interviews. I met a lot of people, like behind the scenes kind of thing. So, and I also volunteered my time with them, because I wanted to find out, like how, I wanted to find out how well organized they were, because when I was walking by the truckers every single day, it was like an occupation, like I've been to blockades, and it's like, behind a blockade, it's like you create a family, like people are feeding each other, they're supporting each other, they're clothing each other, there's like tons of like, tables of donations, and it's not just for the truckers, it's for everybody, Tom. So I would go, help myself and, whatever. But it was stuff that, like little knickknacks, but it's stuff that a trucker would usually bring to your Walmart or Giant Tiger.
Yeah, and I got to speak to Pat King. It was the day after. Actually, it's when they started to move in. But I got to speak on the main stage, and I brought out some of the issues around the Constitution, because they wanted to talk about the freedom, and going back to that and why we have freedom here. So that's one of the things that I had mentioned, is because, when they came here to make, they made treaties here, and those were friendship treaties. They're called peace treaties. And it was the Mohawks initially who were able to make treaties with the people, their own people, before even the Europeans came here. So in effect, they took the Constitution based on that. And I said to them that if they wanted to find out more about that, go, speak to the Mohawks about those peace treaties, those friendship treaties. Why is it that, it always has to come to this point where it's a conflict? And I think one of the things that we all need to realize, and I've thought about this for a long time, because I read part of a book, I didn't read the whole book, but it's by Henry Hitchings, and it's called How English Became English. And there he says English became English as a result of conflict between all the nations that were warring at the time. And that was in Europe and those Nordic nations. And so this language came out of that, out of Latin, out of German, out of France, all of that. And it was for three purposes. And that was for military, economic, and political control, which is what we have today. And that was the purpose of it. And their God really is a god of war. It's known. It's a fact. I think if people started looking into the history of a colonial state, which this is, along with Australia, New Zealand, what they've done down in South America, and of course, Turtle Island. But we fail to see how we got here. And we know that we say it, they say it, you got to know where you come from before you know where you're going. So let's take a look at where we come from. We come from war. There's been war for how long? And this is how they do it. And now we're at the point where this is the point where we have to change it. If we don't want it, then what do we do? And I think we're at that point now where we have to decide, what do we do? And I always say, with this language, I've learned, I'm First Nations. I had my language taken from me, Dakota. But through this English comes the Dakota. I still have me. My spirit, my culture is within my DNA, runs through me, can't be taken from me. And that's not going to be changed unless something happens to my DNA. And there's a lot of questions here about that. The scientists are not saying. They were invited to a meeting, they wouldn't come. So people have to really think, what do we do now? And the way I thought about it is, and it's already being done. The language is changing. It has to change from a language of conflict and hatred to a language of love, which these truckers are doing right now. And I'm really thankful for that they've been able to maintain that. I've been praying that every day, even when I wasn't in Ottawa, every morning, every day throughout the day, I would pray for them, pray that they would be strong, pray they would keep that unity. And they did. And they kept it for not just themselves, but they kept it for the people, right down to the end. And I'm glad it's not stopped.
Well, me and my cousin Jeffrey, we went down the first day, like when they were gonna push everybody from downtown. Me and Jeffrey went down there. We were standing in front of the Prime Minister's office, like on Wellington, Elgin, and then they were giving out earplugs, and I was just like, okay, they're giving out earplugs, all right. And then they were talking about they were going to do a sonic boom. I don't know what that was, but they kept talking about they're going to sonic boom us. So I don't know what a sonic boom feels like. They said, you just got to cover your ears, whatever. But then other people around us are saying, oh no, it's going to affect your body. It's going to affect your organs. They're just going to like boom us. And when I think about that, I think about, like what's happening in the waters, right? Like how they're sonic booming our aquatic, water, animals and sea mammals and stuff. And how it affects them in the water. So I was just thinking, well, that's going to hurt us even more because, we don't have water to protect us. But
also they were coming down in formation.
No, we didn't see that part. We were like, when we left, because as soon as they started talking about the sonic boom, me and Jeffrey kind of took off because I didn't want to go through that. So then we started coming back, and then they were starting to work their way up Rio Street, like, where they took out the RV and stuff. But we came back home, and they started making their way up Wellington. I went back down, and they were already up by Bank Street, Bank and Wellington. So that's where they were. I seen all the RCMP formation, the police formation. And then we went down on Kent Street, and then on Kent Street, they pushed everybody off Wellington up to Sparks, I believe. So I think all of Sparks is all taken over, and Laurier's taken over. The Kent Street is fully functional again. Like they're just like they removed all the traffic and all the debris that was left behind.
But it took 5 checkpoints to get back in here yesterday from outside.
Yeah, they have checkpoints set up all around the neighborhood. They ask you for your ID. Well, for the drivers, they'll ask you for your ID and where you're going, and why you're going there, like why.
We thought we were going into Gaza.
Yeah, and there was just at every checkpoint there was either RCMP, OPP, or Ottawa Police, and then they had like the police in like black uniforms, like they're all dressed in black, and even their vehicles were all blacked out. You could see the OPP, but it's all blacked out. But and then but right now it's like they're putting up more barricades, so I think they're trying to keep everybody out of downtown area. This morning I seen 2 trucks going by. I actually thought the truckers were coming back, and I was just like, yay, they're back, because it's so boring now. It's boring now that everyone's gone. There's no one screaming freedom anymore. There's nobody honking horns. Like, I got so used to it. It became a part of my life. I wasn't one of the people complaining. I was one of the people who were walking by, encouraging them and giving them, the fist pump and all that. Because to me, if you have the freedom of choice to, get vaccinated, get vaccinated. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. And I honestly, I truthfully, stand by what they're saying. If you don't want to get vaccinated, don't do it. Don't do it. Whatever, do your own research, and find out more information. But like I myself, I was coerced into getting vaccinated. I was forced, in the relationship I was in, like he was vaccinated, and we always had these big debates and conversations about me not being vaccinated, and so our COVID vaccinations kind of broke us up, which is fine, you know what I mean? So it's good, because it created division between not just friendships, but relationships and communities, and I'm getting these evil, like not evil, but mean messages from my friends and my family, calling me a turncoat, calling me a traitor, calling me a bunch of stuff. But to me, it's more like you don't know because you weren't here. You didn't see the people that were gathered on Wellington, that were just there, standing peacefully, like wanting to, like, have that freedom of choice and to have that respect, to have that freedom to choose for your family, for yourself, and for like for the people who are around you. But then there's also the respect that you give to the people who do get vaccinated. So to me, it was like self-respect of me being there, respect my choices of the choices that I make for my life. I don't dictate, to you what you do and what you do to your family and what you choose to do. So I don't think, these people shouldn't, hate on me because I chose to stand for what I believe in. Right. So to all the people who, said mean things to me, that's fine. That's your freedom of choice, and that's what this is all about. And when I seen the police and the RCMP and all these different police people that were coming to Ottawa, standing in line with their tear gas guns and their sticks, it was all over a vaccination. It was their determination to declare war on our people, or even myself, over a vaccine. And to see all that money spent, on these people, on their salaries, for them to come here, to accommodate them, to feed them. There's a lot of police. I heard the police were building up around, the outskirts of Ottawa for weeks. But they kept telling me, oh, Neecha, you're crazy. And I'm like, no, I know they're out there, but right now the truckers, like they're out there, they're out in the outskirts too, you know what I mean? But I'm not saying much on that, but we have our own communication lines open. But I don't know if they come back, I'm ready. I'm ready to hold the line.
Why they're going to such extremes? I think because it's more than just Canada. It's I think it's something that has to do with worldwide governments. They're going to come together and they're trying to coordinate. And this is a good experiment to see how well they do and how well they can control people and move people and how their propaganda works and how well it works. And oh yeah, they're experimenting right now on everybody. So if we're mindful of that, I've lived in institutions my early life. All my early life was in institutions. So they were always watching me, but I was always watching them too. So this goes both ways, and when you're a survivor and you come through this, what we've come through, and we're here, not only can we be thankful, and grateful that we have the life, because many didn't make it, and I really think we need to continue to pray for one another, for the safety of the people, especially those who are willing to put their lives on the line like that. The lady that's right now in jail, they won't let her out. This is serious. I know I've been in positions where, so is Neecha, where we've been taken out, for our culture, for the land. And it is scary. Yeah, it is scary. But at that point, I feel, you know what? Everything's been lost for us. They took the land. They took our families from us. They took our culture from us. They took our language from us. But now they're not going to take our spirit, and they're not going to take our breath. And I ain't giving it up. I'm not giving up my breath. They didn't give it to me. They didn't give me my life, and they don't have the right to take it. That's how I see it. And same with everybody else. They have that right. They didn't, the governments never gave it to us. In fact, they take it from us by making us slaves to a system where we have no choice but to pay and to pay and to pay. This land was never for sale. That was the agreement. They stole it. If everybody was able to live the way that it was meant to be lived on, we'd be all sharing this land. We wouldn't be fighting for the land. We'd be caring for it. We're custodians. That's all we are here. Our lives are very short, and we're going to be out of here. The next generation is coming up, and look what they're leaving. And it's up to us to change it, or it's going to be a lot harder for them. And that's every one of us.
So this is like the, what do you call it? The bloopers. So one of the things that I notice about, the truckers, they're very nice. They're very nice. They're very kind. Like I myself never experienced any racism, any hatred. I never seen any flags. Maybe they were brought up at a certain time, but they haven't been there since. I'm not saying I was there every single second of the day, but I made friends with a lot of people over there, and the conversations that they had, were not, full of racism and hate, like they portrayed in the media. And I think that was one of the reasons why I did go there, was just to see that, see the racism. But I also wanted to see if they got treated as bad as us, for when they did get arrested and stuff. I mean, it wasn't as brutal, like, what they do to us. But, I think Ottawa got a taste of just, a fraction of what we go through. Just a fraction.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's all I want to say.
Now we're all in this together. We can say that for sure.